live on YouTube. All right. And so welcome everybody. And we're here for our beautiful study of the Manual for Teachers and A Course in Miracles. And I'm going to put that up in the room, the place we're at. But let me really quickly get this set up over here on ACIM Gather, because I want people to hear it on the radio too. So let's see, go here and open out my live. I like this. It's fun to me. And there we are. Video unavailable. Wait a minute. There it is. Oh no. Hang on. All right, you guys. Give me a second here. Not sure why it's not going to the live, but YouTube streaming, and I have Doug and Sharon. All right. There we go. Oh no. There we go. That's better. Now people on Gather can hear us. Yay. And I'll turn the sound down over here so I don't hear us or hear us twice. There we go. Yay. All right. I'll figure out a better way to have technology pretty soon. You know, it just seems like, you know, this is just new still and we're just figuring it out. So I'm not too hard on myself for not being the best, because
you are the best.
Oh, you well, I'll accept that. Okay, thank you, because how could I not be? I am as God created me. I mean, my goodness, why am I even thinking about it in any other way? Yes, I am as God created me. And what did he create? Nothing but the best. We're simply the best. Let's see. Now, where is? All right, what happened here? Oh, I know what happened. And about it, whenever I do this, it comes up on our YouTube channel, and then I can't see our book that we're reading. So now there it is. All right. So, yep. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Yeah, we're still here. I think is reincarnation so? And so I don't know if anybody's had much thought or talk about you know, the ideas of reincarnation, and we're going to read. I think we're up to paragraph 5, and that's, I think, perfect, because I think it will open up a good discussion for us on, let's see, I'm going to make this a little bigger because it's hard for me to see. You know, maybe too big, but we'll see. All right. So, yeah, so we've been talking about reincarnation, and is reincarnation so? And so who would like to read paragraph 5? Go ahead, Lenny. Ms. Brooklyn.
Does this mean, namaste, mighty companions, does this mean that the teacher of God should not believe in reincarnation himself or discuss it with others who do? The answer is certainly not. If he does believe in reincarnation, it would be a mistake for him to renounce the belief unless his internal teacher so advised. And this is most unlikely. He might be advised that he is misusing the belief in some way that is detrimental to his pupil's advance or his own. Reinterpretation would then be recommended because it is necessary. All that must be recognized, however, is that birth was not the beginning and death is not the end. Yet even this much is not required of the beginner. You don't need to think about it. He need merely accept the idea that what he knows is not necessarily all there is to learn. His journey has begun. There's this YouTube channel that I really like. It's called Next Level Soul Podcast. And it has people with near-death experiences with channeling, and we can't disbelieve any of this. What it seems that Holy Spirit approaches us with what we resonate with, and it's all true. That's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, Brooklyn. I'm going to stop the share for just a second. And for those of us who have our, oh, look, happy birthday, Nicole.
Ah, look at that.
How beautiful that
Oh,
is.
thank you. Thank you, Regis.
Regis.
Thank you.
Oh, my goodness.
That's very beautiful of you, Regis. Beautiful.
I love this love. I love it.
So clever. I just wanted to ask, but by show of hands, or, however you want to, how many of us have a belief or have an understanding about reincarnation? How many of us really think that we go on to another life when we leave this life? I like that, Nicole. Yeah. So just about everybody believes that somewhere you go somewhere when you leave this mortal coil. And I'm going to put on my camera and hope it doesn't kill my computer. Okay, there we go. So even if you don't actually believe in reincarnation, you believe that something happens when you die and when we leave this body, and because we all believe that we go on, I grew up believing you either go on to heaven or you go on to hell or purgatory or not limbo, because I was baptized, but the idea is you're going to go somewhere when you die or leave this body. And it brings up a whole lot of questions about what is it that we think we are, and what is it that we think carries on. Rafi, do you want to say something?
Yeah, several of the masters have said over and over again that I was never born. I don't exist the way I seem, and I can't, therefore I can't die. This body is a picture projected by a mind that really doesn't exist. So, and there is only the vast oneness of being. Where are you going to go? There's no place to go, because you are that which is. And the mind can't possibly grasp that, because it's way beyond what the mind can understand. And we understand that the mind can't understand that. But but if you go back to the truth of it, there is only the oneness of being, or God, or whatever whatever designation you give it, and you can't really name it because you're trying to name it with a mind. But when you die, you don't die. There's no dying. You wake up from this picture of a body that's flesh and bones and stuff, which you are not. And what you have always been, you still are and will always be. So how can you go on to another life when it doesn't exist? Even the masters who say, well, there's the alpha zone, and then there's the causal, and then there's the eternal one, are also saying that the alpha and the causal are just other aspects of this dream that never was. They're just higher elevations of it, if you will. But if you're going to try to digest all this and put it into a category that a mind can understand, biggest waste of time ever.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there too, Rafi. And I guess the idea of continuation as a person, that's what I'm thinking. Is there a person of Lynn? Is Lynn actually? Does Lynn actually exist, or is Lynn just a character in a story or a figment of my imagination? And so, when I stop imagining, what's left. Does Lynn exist? I think not. So I don't, but anyway, Myrna, please, I'd love to hear what you're thinking.
Thank you. Well, the Course in Miracles tells you that reincarnation is impossible because bodies are not real. So I don't think of the afterlife in terms of my body going anywhere, but I believe that my soul, I join with my soul, with my higher self. And that is how I connect the afterlife. And we go on to greater aspects of consciousness, higher levels of consciousness. I think that's why it's so important to live our purpose so that now we can continue and generate more of what we are. That's all.
So you think you go on as a person?
You don't go on as a person, no, but your soul reconnects. You reconnect with your higher soul. Our higher soul is out in the universe. I mean, in other words, we are not connected to our soul because we're in a body and we're sharing the body with the ego. So that, when we die, we leave our body and we go on with spirit. We connect with spirit, and perhaps we will go on as another body somewhere else. Maybe we'll manufacture a body again, depending on what exactly we choose to do. And I just believe that our bodies, are limited, of course, in this lifetime, but there's a lot more. We don't just die and just, just forget we ever lived. I don't think so.
I mean, we may do that. We may.
No, we don't.
Not be a need to go anywhere. That's the question. Thank you, Maria. Regis.
So y'all can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so thanks. Myrna, I do have a follow-up question.
Okay.
Before I say what I want to say, in reference to what you were saying, though, in your belief, as you go on to connect with your spirit or your soul, do you feel like you have a memory of the Myrna that you left, this Myrna that's sitting here right now? When you move on, do you feel like you have a memory of that person?
Not the ego Myrna,
Yeah.
just the spirit Myrna, the Myrna that has gone on to a high level of consciousness in this lifetime.
Yeah.
That I will know, not the ego, because the ego is not real. The part of me that's real is the part that will connect to higher levels of consciousness.
And that part that connects to the higher level of consciousness won't remember this experience, correct?
Perhaps it will. Maybe.
Perhaps, that's always my curiosity about
Perhaps.
that belief system. And what I was going to say is, of course, being born and raised in Western world, and I started really Christian education before first grade, and I would say that no one has been able to convince me to care. That's what I was going to say, and of course, I've been Baptist, evangelical, and everything in between, and there's a lot about reincarnating in hell, reincarnating in heaven, in all these various places or experiences, and but no one to this date has been able to convince me to care. And I think it's interesting that that's kind of the take that the Course in Miracles has on it. That what we've been reading here, starting last week, was like, you don't have to get into it, yay or nay, one way or the other. You don't have to really heavily engage in it. And I think that's just kind of reaffirming for me, because peace is now. And when you think of reincarnation, you always think it, you're not thinking now, you're thinking later. The future doesn't exist. So, how much contemplation and study and analyzation can I give to that? Peace is now. The purpose of the course is peace. Happiness is now. So, for me, no one has just ever been able to make me or convince me that it was worthy other than the existing conversation. Once that conversation is over, I'm gone. You know, I don't try to shut it down. I don't have much of anything to say about it. But once the conversation is over, it's kind of like what we've been reading here in the manual for teachers. That's it. Wherever, if that person or entity is finding peace and solace in whatever idea they have about it, that's fine. But it's just like Rafi was saying, it's just not worthy of a whole lot of contemplation because peace is now. And when we think about reincarnation, we're not thinking now, we're thinking later. So where is later? Where is tomorrow? They say that the past doesn't exist and tomorrow never comes. So where is this future happening or experience that we're talking about? And so, um, I trust my future in the hands of God, period. So at the end of it all, I trust my future in the hands of God. So I just want to say that's where I am with it. That's where I've always been with it. And so far to this date, uh, that's where it remains. Go ahead, Nicole.
Wow, this just really opens up a whole, you know. I'm like, God, trying to relate from experience rather than from belief as much as possible, and yet beliefs come to mind. So, when I experience my revelation of oneness, right, and experience it today as well, it's like my oneness. I'm very aware also that there is that which it's been called the extension or the creation, right? The extension of God, which still is God. It's all God. It is all one, and it's beautiful. But it's like where I was prepared, aware this isn't who I am. I was prepared. My fear of redemption was that I might just disappear. And even if that took place, I didn't care. I just wanted to experience my oneness with God so greatly. I was willing to not even exist anymore, to experience my oneness with God. And I experienced that oneness with God. And yet here I am still, right? And so I kind of see like this, the idea, the rays of the sun, the waves of the ocean, and all existing in holy relationship in this grand and glorious, amazing orchestration in order that we can experience this love and this connection, this holy relationship. This is what makes this, rather than just being something static and nothing completely within that, there's this beautiful, amazing, incredible, holy relationship. And today, when I experience my connection with my within this experience of, I've called it unity consciousness, or experience of oneness, with my guides, which I believe includes masters, those who have with Christ, right, with brothers and sisters. The experience of that is there's no bodies, because we're not bodies. It's oneness. It's like an ocean of oneness, right? And yet within that oneness, there is like the essence of what we consider individuals within. I'd say it's what has been called the soul. but it's not a form, it's not a body. It's so those things we associate with another person, the things that we most love, that like within relationship, right? The things we associate with a form such as the smile, the laughter, the essence of them still exists. So there's some kind of spark, and it's almost like a focal point of one, which I think like the waves or the beams, right? And that's why within this oneness, this perfect oneness and orchestration, the creation side of it is this holy relationship. And it's more like just, like focal, like where we've been given, the inheritance has been gifted to us. Like we were the creation. We are as God created us, right? I am as God created me, which is one, still completely one, existing in this perfect holy relationship. And I remember after I first had that experience of oneness, I used to use the example trying to explain to my friend. I was saying it's like we've been identifying as, let's say, a cell in the big toe, right, of a body. And yet as our awareness of the truth of ourselves expands, we go through stages where we suddenly realize, oh, wow, I'm a toe. Then we realize, oh, my God, I'm the foot, right? I know it's a silly parable, but just, we have these expansions of awareness, right? And then realizing our oneness. And yet we're still also like, there's this one in one that's like, there's also this aspect in order for this holy relationship and this grand and glorious orchestration, which is the creation, right? There's still that cell, like a spark or something. And I don't really know. It's just the best I can come up with to describe. There's still like some kind of amazing thing. Like this oneness is amazing. And this is just where I'm at in my own, But anyway, I'll just leave it there. So I'm not sure about reincarnation as such, but I feel like it's more like a choice to experience. It's about experiences, a desire that we have, that will with it, that desire to experience. Right, within that freedom, and we are God. I don't know. I'll stop there because I don't want to go into belief stuff about it. So I'm in that space about it, but that's kind of the best I can describe of my understanding now. Thank you.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Nicole. And really, it's that experience. And having had an experience and having an experience of being oneness, then is there an I that had that experience, or is it an I that perceived that the experience was there, but was not in the experience because I was perceiving the experience?
Yeah, well, in my experience, I'm lying there listening to the rain falling on the roof one moment, and relaxing in and doing this surrender into God. And I was talking to Jesus beforehand, and then I'm listening to the rain on the roof, and next thing it's raining inside me, and and I am the rain. I am the rain, but it's not rain. It's not rain, but it is rain, but it's not rain. It's all just God, everything in the whole universe. You just entered through the top of where my head had been, and suddenly I experienced just my whole oneness with God and with all of creation. And it says that I am one with God and all of creation, right? I am one with God in all aspects of creation. Jesus doesn't deny creation, right? But it's an extension of God. It's all still God, and it's all happening, in this holy relationship, this grand and glorious, it's just, yeah, letting go of our identification as just being this separate self. Oh, I'm Nicole, and I was, letting, yeah. So I see it as more like we realize we're so much more than what we thought, Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. That experience of being enormous is what I can say. It's just like experience of being enormous. Thank you, Nicole. Sharon, please go ahead.
I feel like, this morning I shared with Dove and I said, I didn't know because I didn't sit with that. I don't know if it was Laurie that brought it up or if it was Dove, but I said, I didn't know, but I do feel, and this is what I feel strongly, that we're not separate, and a separate self really wants to know that we go on. And if you read anything on Ramana Maharshi, the spiritual teachings of Ramana Maharshi, he says in the book, yes, God goes on, the God consciousness, but not the person. The person is completely meaningless. It's a vehicle for the I am to live through, or the egoic mind. So in my opinion, it doesn't make sense. And what I have learned is that the ego will definitely want to live on, because you can see it doesn't want to give up ever. So of course it's going to create a story about the fact that we want to know we go on. At least I think because if you're in the ego, you either want to go on or you don't, but you never are one or the other, because you're always back and forth in the ego. But I feel like what Rafi said is the truth. I don't know, but what resonates within me is no, it can't be real, because the I am does live on. I mean, the I am presence. But if you really, like years ago, I was in a warehouse and I had a deja vu feeling that I had been there before. And the interesting thing is the I am was there before, but Sharon wasn't. Because the I am is with us all the time. I mean, it's not, yes, it awakens in this process, but we don't have anything to do with anything. We don't even, it's all God, no matter, and free will really doesn't exist. It seems like the Course stresses free will, but once you see that you're awakened, it's all happening by itself. It's just this whole beautiful story that's going on, and it's we want it to work out for the separate self, but it doesn't have anything to do with the separate self. It's all just a play. And I would think that I don't want to tell people that I know that for sure, because I don't, but I think that most people that really believe it don't want to be separate. They don't want to be gone, because that's scary. You've never been here, because the truth is, if you really, really look at what the Course is saying, nothing happened. So why do we want to make it like we go to the fifth dimension and the sixth? And, I love Aaron Apke's teachings, but when he gets into like that, we go on and on and on and on, I think that's another story in his dream. That's all it is. And I feel like even the near-death experiences are stories in the dream, and it gives us hope. Because I think the near-death experiences are showing consciousness that it's more than a person. But as far as what happens to us, I would think that the Course is saying we're still in God. In other words, we are in consciousness. This is the consciousness is the domain of the ego. It's the only part of God that has consciousness. And then when we really think about it, because the Course is very clear, we haven't left. So all I'm seeing right now is this character that's moving her hands in my mind, and I am dreaming of her, as we all are. But no, I really would have to say I would be surprised that a separate self would go on, because there's a lot of story in that, and I think anytime that it's separation, it doesn't seem real. That's still a separate thought to me. So that's all. I just thought I'd share that. Thanks.
Yeah, a separate self going on. That's perfect, Sharon. Separate self going on would just mean that it's an endless nightmare, that we just go on and on and on and on, nightmare after nightmare after nightmare after nightmare. And that's not true. It's like these are just
a matrix. It's a complete matrix. That's what it is. It's nothing. And then that's hard, because if you sit down and think this is nothing, I mean, I've been here like 68 years. Well, no, I haven't.
Yeah.
Because it's thought that has had this 68 years. And time is an illusion. It's a vast illusion. So if you look at it the way I'm seeing it now, there's just no way. I mean, it's over when it's over, but I think it's always perfect because it's all happening by grace.
Well,
Thanks.
and you're never happy. It's never not now.
It's never not now. And what Regis said was very, very clear to me. Yeah. What does it matter? If you're here now, and that's probably the biggest challenge I've had is staying in the present, because you can see how story comes up and then all of a sudden I'm in the story and I'm not in the present. Oh, there's my thing. Okay, I have something in the oven. Okay,
Right.
thanks. Thank
All right.
you.
Rafi, please go ahead.
Yes, a couple of things that came up about the body thing. Two masters that I've researched. One was Sri Lanka. He stayed in his body until he was at least 300 years old. And every year he was in his body, he added another pound. 300 years, 300 pounds. He used to sit on top of the water on the Ganges, or he would sit at the bottom of the water just to prove that once you become a master, once you transcend, once you get the God realization, that you are an infinite master, that you can do anything you want. The other one, who blew me away, was Babaji. Babaji now is about 800 years old. He looks like a man in his 30s. And the only reason he didn't leave his body was because his sister Mataji, who's also realized, asked him to stay in so he could continue to serve. And he said, okay, didn't matter to him. So he stayed in his body. And he continues, he lives up in the Himalayas. And he's surrounded by people who work with him. And he continues to serve because he said he would. Those people who leave their bodies or drop it and walk away from the dream do so usually when they have served their purpose in the dream. And since everything in this dream that never was is like, how many times we've heard it? It's like a school. You have to learn what you learn. And when you get it all, you graduate. Otherwise, you get left back. Well, the getting left back part is that ego that doesn't want to leave that believes it's a body and doesn't want to go, no, I'm afraid I'm going to die. But the fact of the matter is that once you become a master, you can stay in this body as long as you want, or you can create, like Leslie you said, you can create a dozen other bodies. It really doesn't matter. As long as you know you're not those, and these are just images in this dream, and that you are the eternal one, because that's the only reality.
Thank you, Rafi. And yes, we are just flickering images. We're not really real bodies here. This is not the course says at not one instant does the body exist. So we're just projecting this thing, and flashing in and out of it. And I know we've talked about this sometime, and I just saw Lisa Natoli send out a letter talking about this very thing, that not one instant does the body exist. We're flashing in and out of being in a body every second or every instant, but we're not really here at all. So yeah, and yes, that's what we just talked about earlier a few sections ago in the manual for teachers, that they can, the teachers of God that have gone on, or maybe we haven't talked about it yet, that have left the body, still can appear to you in form and can whisper in your ear, or can give you a thought, or they can do a lot of things, but they can actually appear. Jesus could appear in person in front of me right now in a body, because he can manifest a body just like that, boom, just as he did in his life in the world, as once he became realized and had the knowledge to do that, or the need or the reason to do that, because he only did it for that purpose, as you mentioned, Rafi, to serve. And he made a body so he could serve by showing us that you can't kill what doesn't exist, which is the body. Brooklyn, please go ahead.
Wow. I love this group. I really do. to me, like everything is going on all at once. Everything is God experiencing himself, herself, itself. And instead of reincarnation, I like the word resurrection. Of course, we've seen resurrections. We are resurrections. And you know, anything is possible in reality. You know, a lot of ways is subjective, and whatever resonates with someone to help them get deeper into who we really are. Like I said with Next Level Soul podcast on YouTube, there are all these stories, but it's just a way that draws us deeper into who we are. So the stories don't matter, because like we just said, it's all now, all time is going on at once. We're all God in experience. God is having an experience through all of us. And that's what I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooklyn. Nicole, please go ahead.
Right. I'm going to take us back to lesson 1. Okay. Right. My thoughts about this do not mean anything. All right. This isn't a cup. This is not a body. All right. This is not a world. All right. It exists only within our mind, in a thought system and a belief system and our concepts. It's our thoughts about what is, right? Now, what my revelation and experience showed me, okay, was beyond my belief system, right, was you could go in concept, in belief, you could go real world, but it's not a world. It's not rain. It was not rain. It's all God right now. We are here right now in heaven, okay, dreaming, imagining that this is a cup, this is a body, I'm separate, and I'm separate from this cup, and I'm separate from these things. Now, how is Jesus able to manifest a body to appear before someone, right? Okay, he's still existing there within the oneness. Within this oneness is still something which is able to communicate through to us, A Course in Miracles, who's able to appear in form to some people who believe who think they require a form, and is able to appear to me in no form, in an experience of oneness and without the form, and because I can tune in and there is no form without, and I'm able to connect with brothers within, we could say, ether, but it's not. It's just being able to, we're in perfect communion always. And Jesus tells us that our natural state is in a state of perfect communion always, right, with all of creation. Okay, and I'm starting to open up to this kind of thing, so I can connect with brothers, have nobody, no story, no name. I have no reincarnational story for them, not a name, not nothing, and yet I know them by their essence, by their within this oneness and within this ocean. There's these, like, they have a different, the way the ocean, the way God flows through them, some little point of something has these little differences, but it's like a distillation. And I don't know, it's like, but the thing is, right, the dream, right, that we're dreaming is our story, our narrative, our beliefs, this is a cup, I'm this, I see myself in a world where blah, 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 right? That's our dream, right? And we become so attached to that and fused and identified with that story that we shut ourselves out from the vision of Christ, from the vision which actually shows us, and from what the Holy Spirit that shows us the reality and the truth of who we are, right? And it's like we are, you know, anyway, that's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. So it's like everybody has an idea. We all have some thoughts about, and we've all been thinking about it. What is it? And it comes down to that very question of, what am I? What are we? What do we think we are? And do I think that I'm an eternal being that has no end, that is enormous and everything is life and everything is God, and I am that? Do I think that that's the case and that's true? Or do I think that, I'm a single soul that at some point will, die and, go back to heaven? And I guess because I'm inclined, because I've had that experience of that universal oneness where I was everything for a period of time that I can't even think or say or know. But just experiencing that gave me an understanding that this limited being I think I am, and this limited life I think I'm living is just total limitation. And it is like wearing a pair of tight shoes. I don't have the freedom of my experience because I think I'm trapped in this being. But I'm glad I asked the question, and I'm glad thank you everybody for your comments and your discussion, because really all this just brings to mind, well, what is it that I really think is happening? And what is it that Jesus is telling me here that I'm going to be able to get an understanding of what I am. I like that he says he need merely accept the idea that what he knows not necessarily all there is to learn. His journey has begun. So that's it. We just know that we don't know. And that's perfect. Any other discussion on that paragraph? I know we beat that to death, but really, I just wanted to get to a place where, we're all thinking, and, what is the truth and reality of my situation here? And what is it that I think is going to happen and expect in some future, which obviously doesn't even exist. So let's look at paragraph 6. Who would like to read paragraph 6?
I'll read it. Okay.
Nicole, do you want to say something?
I was saying I'll read it, but
go
I
ahead.
don't know who was first.
Oh, go ahead. That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you, Robbie.
Do you know something really funny, Lynn? I was thinking exactly of that exact same sentence. And then you said it out loud, the part that was in the previous one about the more to know kind of stuff and all that. And I also really loved, I wanted to say that who am I thing. Because, what am I? Who am I? That's it. Anyway, and there's and that's what I meant about earlier when I was using that kind of silly parable about the the sow and the toe and whatever. It's not about for me about dimensions or any of this kind of stuff. For me, that's just about the more we undo our beliefs, the more we open up to being able to see and open up to the Holy Spirit showing us what is the truth here, you know, what is the truth here. It's just about our awareness, just about it's the awareness, not us, because we are as God created us. We're already all that. We're already one. We're already one with God, all of that. So it's just our awareness. But anyway, I'll read that. So the emphasis of this course always remains the same. It is at this moment that complete salvation is offered you, and it is at this moment that you can accept it. This is still your one responsibility. Atonement might be equated with total escape from the past and total lack of interest in the future. Heaven is here, like Sharon said. Heaven is here. There is nowhere else. Heaven is now. There is no other time. No teaching that does not lead to this is of concern to God's teachers. All beliefs will point to this if properly interpreted. In this sense, it can be said that their truth lies in their usefulness. All beliefs that lead to progress should be honored. This is the sole criterion this course requires. No more than this is necessary. And wow, that's funny because that kind of went with what I was just saying too, because it's not, you know, it's here, it's now. And what shifts is our awareness, our belief systems, and our thoughts and the effects that those thoughts have. That's all. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Does anybody have any comments on this paragraph? Brooklyn, please go ahead.
I just want to say, I love that line. All beliefs that lead to progress should be honored. Yeah. It's whatever resonates that leads us home, whatever resonates with us. I believe that.
Thank you for that. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you know, if we get caught up in these stories about, you know, this is, and I know, Brooklyn, I've looked on that podcast that you talk about as well, because who is it? Somebody sent me, maybe you did you send me a thing from that about the John the Beloved? The guy who, okay, somebody did, maybe it was Karen.
I
Anyway,
sent you Ram Dass.
okay, you sent me Ram Dass. I haven't had a chance to look at that yet. So anyway, yeah, and so, you know, I've kind of looked at some of those, and of course, you know, a lot of, you know, throughout my life have been interested in the whole idea of reincarnation and all that ideas of you know, past lives and who did what, and you know, there's a lot of past life regression, people who do hypnotherapy and do a past life regressions on people. And Brian Weiss, Dr. Brian Weiss, has written several books about it and has done a lot of this work where you know, people have some kind of an ailment, like they have a sore neck or something, and then, you know, they do this past life regression and find out, oh yeah, you know, you were killed but with a guillotine during, you know, whatever. So, you know, that's why your neck hurts, and now you know that you can stop, you know, being afraid for your neck, and, you know, people are miraculously healed according to all of these books and stories. And a lot of this is stuff that I read long before I found the course, because, you know, that's a lot of popular literature, and if you're into new age stuff, it's everywhere. So anyway, all of that being said, when it comes right down to it, if it leads to progress, if it's somehow it's helping me to think about those things and know those things, then it's a good thing. But, for me, a lot of it is just, it's entertaining. It's interesting. And, the ego is nothing but interested in everything. The ego wants to know the story behind everything and make up the story about everything. Even if you don't know the story, you make up the story. And so I think that's what a lot of this, thoughts about, who did what in what past life, and, who was Mary Magdalene, and who all of that is, I think, mind wandering, and what Jesus tells us that we're much too tolerant of. And I'm not saying it's of accusing of anybody, because I'm the one I'm telling you, confessing here. It's been something I've, done, thought about for, my whole life, and spent a lot of time trying to figure things out about. So, the question is, how did it help me? And, did it bring me to this place where I knew that heaven is here and heaven is now, and there's nothing else and nowhere else? Just as Regis was saying, and I mean, just as Nicole was saying, and just like everybody has been saying. So, the point just comes to back being, be here now. Ram Dass. Brooklyn, please go ahead.
All of this is Leela. Like Dove always says, you gotta laugh. And when we play with this, it's like, I know I had a past life regression, and then it grew. And it turns out that I was Mary Magdalene, and my head was on Jesus's shoulder, and he was comforting me. I love it. I absolutely love it. But it's a story. But it's a love story. Anything that then helps us feel love, and as long as we realize, there's stories. But like I said, reality is subjective, and whatever resonates with a person to make them love more should be honored, really.
Yeah, I think that's, it's the make them love more. And and how many other Mary Magdalenes have you met? I got to be Anne, Jesus's grandmother, so that, I wasn't in the picture much, but according to past life regression vision, yes, I watched him as my little grandson growing up, and I had a whole memory of things that were different, than what you read about in the Bible. But it seemed very real in the mind and the mentality, the place where I was. But it's just as it meant, the life of Jesus was an imaginary story. Just like every other life is an imaginary story, but we get caught up in it. So anyway, did anybody else have anything to say? Brooklyn, did you want to say something else?
Only love is real.
That's right. It's all love. All right. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share on this section? Well, yeah, we're going to move on then. And woohoo! And now we're going to be talking about psychic powers. Oh my gosh. And believe me, I had the whole psychic power thing going on. I came up in the times of the amazing Kreskin. Do you guys, or anybody remember Kreskin? And he had those cards, and you would hold the card, pick the card up, and transmit the picture to the other person, and they would say, it's a circle, it's a plus sign, or whatever. And then you figured out how many of them were right, and then that was how psychic the person was. Or we would do it with playing cards, or I did the realm of psychic vision. Of course, I did tarot cards from the time I was like 14. So I was always trying to be psychic. So this is going to be interesting. Who would like to read paragraph 1 of 25, our psychic powers?
I'll read it.
Oh, thank you, Rafi. I hoped you would.
The answer to this question is much like the preceding one. There are, of course, no unnatural powers, and it is obviously merely an appeal to magic to make up a power that does not exist. It is equally obvious, however, that each individual has many abilities of which he is unaware. As his awareness increases, he may well develop abilities that seem quite startling to him, yet nothing he can do can compare even in the slightest with the glorious surprise of remembering who he is. Let all his learning and all his efforts be directed toward the one great final surprise, and he will not be content to be delayed by the little ones that may come to him on the way. Which reminded me of stuff that used to go on when I was a kid. I'd see things happen in my head, and then they would happen. And my son, who was adopted, who had no genetic connection with me, he used to do the same thing. And I didn't pay any attention to it till I started studying and got on the path. And then I realized, well, since we're all connected, we're all of that one mind, of course we can do that. All you have to do is get thinking out of the way and let the things happen as they will. And there's no way I am not you. There's no way you are not me. There's only the one. And so if you can call it psychic, you can call it anything you want. You could call it, Sydney. But the fact of the matter is, if all our thoughts come from something that serves, there's no way you cannot not know. And that other stuff that magicians and other people use are just hooking on to that and manipulating it so that it serves their purpose so they can make a living. But the oneness, how do I put it? The oneness of being within it contains this finite thing called thinking, and there's no way it cannot be connected. We cannot be connected to all of us. So of course you can do that. Because how many times has the phone rang and you picked it up and said, hi, well, I was just thinking of you. I mean, it's happened to all of us so many times. Or you think of something and they call you, or you think of something and it just happens. But that's because the mind is a creative instrument. It's going to do that. And if you stand back and watch it, you can be very entertained by it. If you get caught up in it, then you're stuck. Then you got to start thinking, well, I'm a body, I'm a mind, I'm doing, and none of that.
Thank you, Rafi. Yeah, I mean, you're right, because it is one mind. I mean, and literally every single one of us, if you saw us as individuals, even if we did have an individual mind, we all are 100% responsible for the dream, because we're all 100% us, the one thing. So if it were all 100% the one thing, us, then how could there be something outside of us making up a story? So yeah, of course, I know every bit of the story, and so do you. I just forget conveniently so that I can be surprised by by what you say or do. And Jesus is saying, well, forget about that stuff. What about the real surprise that's coming up? And I love this. It's so cool. Nicole, please, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
I I'll start with, I actually really relate to your story, what you were saying, because my mum was all into that stuff and even reincarnation. Like, I remember watching as a child a video she had called "I Am Mary Shelley," which was about a lady who believed she had been Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein and had, I don't know, some famous person, and she'd had all these memories that they went and checked them all, and apparently they got proven and all this kind of stuff. But what I was saying is, as his awareness increases, he may well develop abilities that seem quite startling to him. Now, how easy when we are one, okay, could it be to tune into such things as the life and times of Mary Shelley, for example, or someone else? There might be of some connection or something. But also things that get called, like, for example, when I remember back in 2000, when I was lying on my couch and I'd been reading the Course in Miracles, and I'd hit this roadblock with it and I'd put it down, and I used to have these where I'd go into I used to joke and call them an ACIM induced coma, you know, and I was lying there and I'd fallen asleep, and a noise started me outside, and I suddenly became aware a voice was speaking to me, and that it was, so, you know, in the world, the belief that we need a body to be able to communicate, that we need to hear with the body's ears, the words that are spoken through a body's mouth in order to actually, is an illusion. It's not real. And yet in the world, people call that clairaudience, right? It seems like a startling thing, and it was startling to me indeed. And yet it's not any kind of special ability. It just seems so when one believes that such is not possible unless you're special or something. It's like some kind of special belief. And like what I was talking about earlier about my experience that I have speaking to so-called dead people. You know, this is a belief, isn't it? Dead people. Some people would call that medium, being a medium, because I can communicate with those who aren't in a body. And yet again, it's the same belief. It seems like something startling or special because of our belief that one requires the body's ears to hear a voice spoken through a body's mouth, right? That's just beliefs. It's an illusion. It's nothing. And how do we think that Jesus manages, like, if we believe that this Course in Miracles came through, okay, one who we call Jesus, right, in the past life, right? How do they communicate with our bodies? Do we think that they're just unable to communicate with each other? So that opens up so-called psychic, you know, special powers such as telepathy. How do they manage to maintain a state of perfect communication and communion with our bodies? Is it because they have special psychic powers? You know, so as his awareness increases, he may well develop abilities, and that's true. We do suddenly start to realize, as we recognize our oneness and all that, these things open up, which some might call that, but like, I don't see them that way. You know what I mean? Anyway, I just like how he's put that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. And yeah, well, and so when you're saying that you speak with like dead people or whatever, does that mean that the people exist as a personality after they've left their body? Is there a person that is speaking to you, or is it just a person in a void, the void that's just a story in the mind? I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. Anyway, please, Brooklyn, go ahead, and then Glorian, and then Rafi.
Wow. Yeah, well, to me, I don't speak with dead people, but I feel, well, I don't call them dead people. I just call people out, without bodies, disembodied, like my boyfriend Ram Dass. But yeah, we don't need a body to communicate. I definitely agree. I would like to share a story. I don't remember if I ever shared this, so please forgive me if I did. When I was 15 in 1969, my best friend Evie and I, we had 2 tabs of mescaline, and her wall was silver foil, and I was staying over, and her mother worked nights as a nurse. And we took half, and we baking cookies. Well, nothing happened. We took the other half. And then I'm starting to see things on her wall of silver foil. Beautiful, beautiful things like Adam and Eve in the garden and everything. But then I saw this one-eyed monster, coming. And I'm thinking, oh, this is just part of the trip. It's okay. It's okay. And then in the morning, we discussed what our experiences. And when I told her, I said the one-eyed monster, she was, whoa. It turns out that she never told me that when she was younger, she was raped by a guy with one eye. And she always thought of him as the one-eyed monster. And I saw that on her wall. And I think we all have this. It's just that we don't all believe it. Must be my imagination. Oh, yeah. We just, yeah, it was, we still talk about this to this day. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooklyn. Yeah. And that is very interesting, that you were connected in that way, and that you saw something maybe that she was experiencing in her thought as well. Glorian, please, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Hi, I'm thinking here what's coming to me is Jesus is making a distinction between the mental and the spiritual. There are, of course, no unnatural powers. Our natural state is healing, wholeness. So there's nothing unnatural. And it is obviously merely an appeal to magic to make a power that doesn't exist, something within the mental. It is equally obvious, however, that each individual has many abilities. He's distinguishing between power and ability, abilities of which he is unaware, which would be healing. As his awareness increases, knowledge of who he is in truth, he may well develop healing abilities that seem quite startling to him. Once we recognize ourselves as consciousness, and that's what we see outside of us, then that healing takes place. And these are acquired abilities from the experience of wholeness and oneness and consciousness. Yet nothing he can do can compare even in the slightest with the glorious surprise of remembering who he is. So I think he's distinguishing like all of these different things, these psychic abilities and dreams, and all of that is aspects of the mental, where our goal is really to get to the spiritual, the acceptance of the Christ. Let all his learning, the undoing and the mental training, and all his efforts be directed toward this one great final surprise, that I am, Spirit is, that's all there is God. And he will not be content to be delayed by the little ones that may come to him along the way. So the distraction, in a way, I think he's saying that, all beliefs that lead to progress should be honored. And I really feel, and I believe that is important in, just validating where someone is coming from, but recognizing that it's really you, because it's all your projection. So we want to take a look and bring everything back home to us. And I really feel this is a paragraph where he's establishing the difference between mental, psychic, dreams, ego, illusions, different forms and different powers to the ability of acknowledging our wholeness and oneness as the Christ. Thanks.
Beautiful. Thank you for that beautiful interpretation, Gloria. I love when you do that. Rafi, please go ahead.
Yes, as it was explained to me by Lester Levinson and what I've gathered from several of the other masters, is that where there are three zones of this dream. There is the physical zone, which is the lowest, then the astral, and then the causal. And then beyond that is, of course, the oneness of being, or heaven or God or whatever, however you designate it. And Lester and them said that when you die, when you leave this body, you go to the astral zone where you have a body of light. And you can do anything you want with it. You can turn it into a kangaroo, you can turn it into a mosquito, you can have 6 or 7 of them, and you stay there for what amounts to, in this dream, a couple of 100 years. And then if you haven't fully transcended, you pick out another body, you come back and you do it again. So you could keep learning the lessons until you get it, that this isn't real, and that the reality of what you are is beyond comprehension. And so to be able to communicate with people who have so-called died, and I do it all the time. I talk to my son, I talk to my mom and dad all the time, because I know they're there. And whether they talk back or not, and sometimes they do, but to talk to a master, to talk to Lester, to talk to Jesus, to talk to the Buddha, to talk to Ramana Maharshi, Robert Evans, whoever, they will answer. And usually what you get back is a nod. It's like, can I have this in this dream? Because the answer is only yes. Somebody said, if God had a lexicon, it'd have one word, it would be yes. So nothing is impossible. And once you get totally realized, and you realize that or you transcend, that the impossibles are only within the confines of an ego mind. And beyond that, there's no such thing as impossible. Of course, you can communicate with anyone and anything because they're still there. Like I said before, there's only this universal oneness. Where you're going to go? Outside it? I don't think so.
Thank you, Rafi. So you believe that we are independent individuals that continue to live on as an independent individual after we have left the body. Is that
Only in the dream? There's no such thing as but if you're going to play in the dream dream has 3 spheres, and you'll play it until all the masters, for instance, I forget which one said, they're all one. There's no such separation between Jesus and Buddha and all the others. There's all that oneness, and they stay in the causal zone so they can continue to serve us. And they're continuing to push the grace of God to us all the time. All we have to do is be open and receptive to it. They could go on, but they're here to serve. We're here to serve. Everything serves itself. That's what this is. I looked at a thing that I forget who said it. What am I? Okay, what do I really, 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 really want? I really, really, really want to remember what I really am. And how can I best serve? By being what I really am. And when I broke it down to as simple as that, everything became a lot smoother for me.
Thank you, Rafi. It's so interesting, this concept of individual beings, which I notice even Jesus mentions it in the course. And I was just going to show you guys something else. It's coming up in the next section, but it's something that always comes to me when I'm asking the question, are we individual persons or souls who have an individual personality and story? Is that because according to what I think about the Course, it's not possible that we could actually be individual beings, individual persons, and that we could live on after that when the body, this body was over, that we would continue on as a person in another life, in another body, in another world, but as an individual person. That's I guess the question that I'm asking, and that's, that's kind of what you were alluding to too, I think, because what Jesus is saying is that nothing you can do can compare even in the slightest with the glorious surprise of remembering who he is. Let all his learning and all his efforts be directed toward this one great final surprise, and he will not be content to be delayed by anything. So the idea of what am I, which is again what you were mentioning, Gloria, and everybody, that's the real question here. And I was just going to show you this other thing really quickly. I know Nicole has her hand up, and so does Brooklyn. Maybe I'll just go ahead and let you guys go because we only have 10 minutes left. So Nicole, please go ahead. Because I'd love to hear what you have to say in Brooklyn as well.
Thank you. And I'm pleased with that, because I really want to go right on join in with what you were saying, because I really don't believe we ever are individual. I don't believe individual is even a thing that exists. I believe even right here and now that individuality is an illusion. Okay, it only exists within the self-concept, our beliefs and ideas about ourselves. And yet we are right here and now in perfect holy harmony and in holy relationship within oneness right now. And it's only just our belief systems that block us from seeing that. That's it. It's our ideas and beliefs about ourselves. Right here and now, and I really resonated with what Rafi was saying too around this idea of because there is this perfect freedom that we have, because we are as their choice to hang around, right? And I don't think there's any the representations and symbolism of these planes, so forth, isn't like actually a real physical place. It's just a choice. So they can at any time just melt and burst, just as we can, and melt into that oneness and remembrance. And yet then, according to our will, and as the love of God, the flow of God comes through us, experience different things, including the illusion of seeing ourselves as an individual or as separate. And I just wanted to, because I had a good laugh before when Lynn was sharing her story, and it reminds me of the what Jesus was saying in relation to reincarnation in regards to, is it helpful? Because I had the experience when taking mushrooms of realizing that I could see with my eyes closed. I didn't need eyes to see. So that was helpful for me, because there's like the proof I'm not a body. I don't need physical eyes to see. So I had the experience of, with my eyes closed, being able to just see, like as if my eyes were open, I could see the trees and the sky, and I could see with my eyes closed. So, even these things, it's about, is it helpful? And for me, that actually was. I realized I'm not the body. Anyway, thank you.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's really cool, Nicole. And as you were talking about that, and I was thinking about what really I think the deal is that just like a book or a movie, I can bring up the characters in a book in my mind that I've read, that I loved, that I appreciated, or characters in a movie, and I can read the book and and I can be in that book. I can be in that story. I can be that character, or I can watch a movie and I can be in that movie in my mind. I can, and that's the only place that it is. This is the same way. The only place it is in my mind. And so I can be in my mind in everywhere, because that's where everything is. Okay, so Brooklyn had her hand up. You still want to come up?
This is wonderful. Two of my friends left their bodies this year, Maria and Patricia. And I was just, feeling Patricia.
See you later.
And I said, I was saying to Patricia, is Marie there? And I felt we're all here. We're all here. And I think that's true. We're all here. Of course, we're all together. And I just want to say, as far as when I woke up from that trip, I saw Mary holding baby Jesus. And I was telling my friend, why am I seeing this? I'm Jewish. Yeah.
So were they.
Yeah, exactly. But like Marianne Williamson would talk, when she wrote her book Return to Love. Dear, we don't talk about that, But yeah, we're all here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what Sharon Casey, is that her name? Yeah, Sharon Casey. She I interviewed her a few years ago. She's I think probably a lot of you know her on Facebook, and she had a near-death experience and had she actually saw everybody was there. She was in heaven, and everybody was there. And it's just a beautiful book and a beautiful story that she tells about it. But she actually had the experience of going to heaven and seeing that nobody's missing, everybody's there. So beautiful. So who else had their hand? I guess no one. I was just coughing, so I wanted to.
Why don't you show us what you wanted to show us?
Oh,
Lindy?
okay. All right. I'll flip over to that, and you can look at this other. Let's see. So it's coming up next. This section called "Can God Be Reached Directly?" And he says, there are those who have reached God directly, retaining no trace of worldly limits and remembering their own identity perfectly. These might be called the teachers of teachers, because although they are no longer visible, their image can be called upon, and they will appear when and where it is helpful for them to do so. To those to whom such appearances would be frightening, they give their ideas. No one can call on them in vain, nor is there anyone of whom they are unaware. All needs are known to them, and all mistakes are recognized and overlooked by them. The time will come when this is understood, and meanwhile they give all their gifts to the teachers of God who look to them for help, asking all things in their name and in no other. Nicole, unmute yourself.
I was just going to say, this is a perfect example of, from what he's saying here about them, you would say, oh, they've got all the psychic gifts going on here. They're able to, they've got it all going on here because they're able to, but it's not, you see. Do you see? It's not psychic gifts. It's because they're one. What I mean is that they know, they're aware. They're aware. You see, they're aware because we're one. Yeah, and they see no separate interests, and they're one. And privacy is an illusion. The illusion of a separate mind, like an identity, a separate mind, is an illusion. There is such thing. There's no such thing, you know. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, this is when Rafi was talking about all the masters, and I know when I was a kid, I read all those Baird Spalding books, The Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. I don't know if any of you all read those, but they were like fantastic. And I read the autobiography of a yogi, and I read all these different things, and I had all these ideas about, there being these beings who, had evolved to a place where they were what they're talking about here, and they know everything and everyone, everything that's going on. I guess the whole dream, but they can appear to you in physical form. They can appear, they can give you ideas in your mind. They can do whatever it is that you need to for the help that you need. And that's why we can call on them, because they're always here. That's just fabulous. But that's the next section, so we won't start that till next week, more than likely. But anyway, Nicole, did you want to say anything else, or just your hand is still up? That's okay. I'm going to go ahead and, oh, you're muted.
Yeah, no, I'm good, but yeah, no, thank you for bringing me here. I'm just like going, thank you that they're here. Thank you that they're here with all of us. It's not special. Always helping, always one. Mwah.
Absolutely. Then that's it. There's nothing special, because there's nothing separate. Everything is the same and everything is one, and we're all one together. So, that's all we're here for, is to remember that. So
We're all here.
we're all here. Yeah. All right, you guys, I love you all so very much. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Love us.
Man, what a crew. I love it. It makes me so happy.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Big hugs. Big hugs.
Love you all.
Mwah.
Bye.